Welcome, everyone. I'm Davin Chitwood with Kirkham and have our founder and CEO, Tom Kirkham. And today, I'd like to talk a little bit about acceptable use policies. And if you're a company out there and you have an acceptable use policy, what should you have in that policy? And if you're a company and you don't have an acceptable use policy, why exactly do you need one now in today's time?
Yeah, so this is really simple. An acceptable use policy is intended in most cases for everyone in the company to know what acceptable use of the computer equipment, the network, and basically the whole thing, the whole IT infrastructure. And so you can use it to maybe restrict use of Facebook. Maybe you don't want to have your IT company block Facebook because one or two people in the company need to use Facebook, but you don't want everybody else doing it. So you can put that in acceptable use policy. Now, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes, somebody will a client will make a request for us to put on some monitoring software because they think everybody's goofing off. And the very first thing I want to remind them is if they're goofing off on the computers, they're goofing off everywhere. You've got a bigger problem. Okay. But they persist sometimes, and we'll put the monitoring software on there. But I really believe that a good acceptable use policy, around equipment and the use of the computer on the internet and things like that is really all you need. And, because like I said, if that doesn't work and everyone's not made aware of it, it's part of the onboarding of new people, then there's another problem there from a management or leadership or culture perspective that regardless of IT, you have. So don't make a knee-jerk reaction and just say, well, technology can solve this problem, so let's implement some technology, right? Yeah. Technology is a tool. Okay. Yeah. And that's what it's an investment. It's an investment and a tool. And that's what you need to treat it as, not some sort of spying mechanism or using technology to restrict access to a gambling site for one person and Instagram for another. You can do that better. And people appreciate the candidness and the honesty and things like that.
I also do want to point out with acceptable use policies, especially now where there's a lot of remote work environments and you may work at home and have to remote into maybe a server, just overall the network at your office. Acceptable use policy can also go into play regarding what devices you can use to actually work. Instead of using, you can say, do not use your personal laptop or desktop to remote in to our secure network or overall server that may have confidential information on it, simply because if there is something, or if your personal device is compromised and then you access that network or you overall connect to that network at work, then you're putting that overall the organization at risk just because you wanted to use your personal device. And so I see often where organizations, they have the acceptable use policy saying that, hey, you can only use this work provided laptop for work activities. And anything else you need to do, you can use your personal device for personal use. And so making sure you have that strict distinction of what devices you can use on the network and for work activities is definitely a good security practice as well.
Yeah, we do a hybrid approach. We used to have company cell phones because cell phones were expensive. 10, 20 years ago, having a cell phone was expensive compared to now. And gosh, you can get $15 a month unlimited everything on some cell phone plans. And I think cell phones are a very personal item. So we allow cell phones to access our email servers, but we have ways to where we can delete the company information off of it. That doesn't, delete everything off the phone. But when it comes to accessing a company network or actually doing work, we just put laptops in everybody's hands as company property. And those are the only devices that are really supposed to be used for, accessing certain systems and things like that. And it gives us a highly portable workforce. If you've been working from home off and on for the past 2 or 3 months between different towns, and And it just really works good. And when they walk into the office, they plug it into a docking station, and everyone has their 34 or 50-inch monitors, and some people have 2 or 3 monitors and multiple monitors and a keyboard, mouse, touchpad. They get all the productivity of having a desktop. But then if they're traveling or they're at home sick or whatever, and they need access, they've got the laptop with them. So that's kind of how we do it. You know, your mileage may vary. It depends on your risk analysis.
Yes.
You know, we also understand the dangers of inserting a USB drive. And you've got to be really careful putting USB drives on your company network, especially if somebody brings one in. I would say assume it has malicious items on it, and just don't allow it, or at least, you know, figure out a way to connect it and make sure before it contaminates anything, make sure that it's clean. But, you know, we generally use file sharing services to move files around. Sometimes we use Slack, sometimes we use email, sometimes it's Dropbox. So we don't plug USB drives into our network very, very often, except on our isolated environments that are designed to remove malicious items.
Definitely. And so overall, acceptable use policies, if you have one, of course, that's great. And maybe you want to review it or figure out maybe what you're missing or change some things. Or if you don't have an acceptable use policy and you do want one and you want to figure out, okay, what do I need to include in that? What risk do I have as an organization as a whole? Definitely reach out. We actually offer free risk assessments to evaluate and see if there's any potential vulnerabilities within your network. We can review that acceptable use policy, whatever you may need to understand the full risk that you have regarding your organization. And then, of course, we help you develop a plan to address any of those potential vulnerabilities. And so if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out. You can email, give us a call. But overall, tune in next week and we'll be talking about another topic regarding cybersecurity. If there's anything specific you want to hear, let us know. We'll talk to you soon.